Welcome back to the Dynasty Nerds Roster Rescue Show. We are here to rescue you rosters. My name is Garrett Price. I'm here along with my co-host, Taylor Christensen.
Happy to be here. Excited to be here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can. It was a little delayed on my end, but it could just be me.
I was going to say,
moved,
it's
the
the
words
same
didn't come out.
face. The same face you always have, Garrett. I just wasn't sure because Pete's matched yours for a moment there. So I was like, oh no, something has gone terribly wrong if Pete is looking the same way that Garrett is this early in the show. But
Well, we are related.
that's true.
That's
I'm
what
still
we
trying
found
to figure out what your cousin must look like because I at least a blonde, I'm thinking, but
Yeah.
you never know.
To be fair, I was much more like dirty blonde as a kid. My hair's gotten much darker as I've gotten older. So, you never know.
Man. Hey, that's some good Garrett lore.
There you go. Because that's what we're all looking for is
That's what I'm
lore
looking for.
on a random 34-year-old dude that talks about fantasy football for a living. Okay, so let's get into the show today. And we've already got several rosters to rescue. Now, today, I have a bit of a time strain, a little crunch on time. So depending on how many reviews we get in, and I'm gonna leave this up to Pete. We talked about it a little bit beforehand, but we might be at the point already where all we can accept are nukes. Is that the case, Pete?
Yep.
So we're already there.
Yep.
Okay. So if you want in, now remember, not only will you make sure you get a roster rescued this show, but it will move to the top of the list. So whenever we finish up whatever we're talking about in that moment, nothing else exists. We jump right to yours. So you also get to move up your order if you want to do that. Just scan the little submit a question box there in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. With that, anything else we need to cover? Any housekeeping stuff before we get going here, Pete?
Do you think it's weird to drink iced coffee out of a mug?
I don't like coffee, period. So I don't know that I would be the correct person to judge what type of medium is used.
Okay. Because I put iced coffee in this, and I'm really feeling off right now. It feels weird drinking something cold out of a mug. But let's go into our first roster review, shall we?
All right.
do it.
Oh, you said roster review. You always yell at me for that. Look at this. He said review instead of rescue.
It's a teaser. It's a teaser.
I said
The
rescue.
You said review.
No.
Review. 100%. All right. First one here. We have our guy, Brandon. He says, I have always finished in the top half of the league, but I've never won. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. I get it. So he's looking to shake this thing up. All right. So this is a one quarterback league. Some things that he's kind of thinking about: trade or hold Javonte Williams. Should I trade Kyler Murray for Drake May? Trade Olave plus for London? Trade Worthy maybe plus for Odunze? What about the running backs? Sorry for all the questions. Just curious on your thoughts. So one quarterback leave, Kyler Murray, Michael Penix at the QB spot, Devon A. Chan, Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Wright, Javonte Williams, Braylon Allen, Nick Chubb, Rico Dowdle at running back, wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas, Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy, Cortland Sutton, Demario Douglas. And then at tight end, we have George Kittle, Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson. Picks right now, 108, 201. That's it for this year, but we do have both our firsts and seconds in the coming years. This team is in fourth in both contender and dynasty mode. Taylor, take it away.
Well, breaking it down a little bit further, we are okay at the quarterback position for it being a one quarterback league. I think Murray is fine enough. We're looking light at the running back position. That's the first thing that sticks out to me is if we're going to contend for a real like championship caliber team, we need to have more of our dynasty value in our running back room. We don't have a whole lot of capital this year, but the 108 and the 201 could definitely be running backs. There's a good chance that those end up being good quality running back options. So we do have some potential, but looking at the wide receiver room, we have too many names here. There's just too many. I mean, it's a 12-team league, one quarterback. I don't know if there's, 12, 13, 14 starters. If there are, then it's a little bit different, but 11 starters or fewer. Every name after Joshua Palmer, so Jalen Tolbert and down, I would just cut them. I would truly I don't think you can get anything for them. You could throw them into any deal that maybe comes up in the next couple of weeks, but none of those guys are going to be difference makers. And we've seen enough from most of them to know that by now. Guys like Rondale Moore, Kendrick Bourne, and so forth. Even if they have a good game, you're unlikely to have them starting in your lineup at the week in which they pop. And if there is a reason they're in your lineup, something has gone really wrong because you have a lot of names above them that should be outperforming them. So I would just cut this wide receiver room in half. Just go out to the waivers and pick up every backup quarterback and every backup running back, even not quarterback because it's one QB. So every running back that's out there, and then just let your wide receivers be, because having all of those extra spots taken up there isn't that helpful. So that was one thing that stuck out, but he has a lot of questions. He wants to basically ask, how do I improve my roster? I'm willing to move anybody, is what I'm getting out of his questions. I like guys like Drake London. I like guys like Odunze. Should I be targeting them? Is kind of what I'm reading from Brandon. So I like the idea of Odunze. It says Olave for London. Or sorry, I like the idea of getting London. It says Olave for London, ? I don't know what you have to add to Chris Olave to get Drake London, but I'm definitely interested in making that deal happen. If you have to add the 201, I'm okay with that. I think I'd rather move another one of these wide receivers if I could. If he's interested in, Cortland Sutton, can I do a 2-for-1? I doubt it, but maybe if they're already talking about having a London for Olave swap. Garrett, how much are you willing to give up in a trade to get off of Chris Olave to pick up a Drake London?
I would easily be willing to give the 2-1. I might even be willing to give the 108, honestly. It would, especially in a 1 QB league that, there's not going to be much. It's at least removing Cam Ward from the equation there inside the top 8. Probably nobody else at this point. 108's kind of right where you start to consider Shedeur or maybe Jackson Dart, depending on where he goes, if he gets a nice first round landing spot or something like that. But so it's not changing too much, but I would be interested to see, though, on top of what we already see, looking at teams like maybe team 10 or 11, they have a lot of running backs, it looks like. Who's on their rosters? So we've got Bijan and Brian Robinson. Don't love that. Alvin Kamara might be a really nice target on the cheap to try to get, because realistically, this guy is not contending. Hopefully he realizes that. He might not realize that, but hopefully he realizes that he's probably not contending this year with that room that he has at running back, no tight ends really, and just a lot of upside other than Justin Jefferson at wide receivers. So if I'm not moving the 201 or the 108 with Olave to get Drake London, I would also be kind of heading this direction and saying, all right, if let's even say hypothetically we do that. Let's say we're able to make it work for just the 201. Maybe a little bit pie in the sky, but let's say we're able to make that work on draft day because they love somebody that's at 201. If you can make that work, you still have 108 there. Can you use the other pick? And I wouldn't want to give 108 necessarily, but can I use that pick plus something to get like Kamara and a player that I really like, an upside player or something like that. Like that's kind of the route I'm trying to go is I want to get a guy like an Alvin Kamara on my team. Or maybe what does team 8 and 9? What do those teams have? 9 has no running backs, but a ton of receivers. This team has Josh Jacobs you could shoot for. I'd be probably willing to give the 108 straight up for Josh Jacobs as well. So that could be another potential option depending on the route that team's wanting to go. Are those the types of moves that you would be open to making, Taylor?
So if I'm not able to get the Drake London for the 201 done, you might be able to just give the 201 for Alvin Kamara to that manager. I think that's a pretty fair offer. So it should at least get talks going. And if you have to throw in 3 of those receivers that we mentioned to get it to work, I mean, the more spots you can drop, the better. Honestly, like maybe overwhelm them and just say like, hey, pick 3 out of these 7 names and I'll give you the 201 for Alvin Kamara. And they might say, that sounds fun. I kind of like 2 of those guys. Like, okay, sure. I can see which guys I like. And then they find themselves like already wanting to make the trade maybe. So some options for Kamara, but if you want to jump to, I'm on the dynasty value instead of contender mode. And team 8 is getting sweaty. Now they've got Saquon, Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry, Pacheco, Tony Pollard. So even if we don't love all of their guys, they at least feel like they have some starters to back up their starters. And they have their best tight end is Jake Ferguson. So can we tear down from George Kittle to Jake Ferguson in a deal for one of these running backs? Because I don't know if we have seen the worst, or I should say, I don't know if we've seen the best of Jake Ferguson, but Dak Prescott wasn't there last year. And we know that Dak definitely does target his tight ends when they're out there, like when he's out there, when things aren't going right, he looks for that outlet. And in a 1 quarterback league, not likely premium, if we can get 6 catches for 60 yards out of Jake Ferguson somewhat regularly, are we happy with that? Like, is George Kittle this next year projected to be so much more than what we think Jake Ferguson has the ability to be with Dak Prescott out there? Because I would be willing to tear down from a guy like Kittle if I feel safe enough about him, or maybe we talk about a guy like,
what do you think you would get? What do you think you would get for? Because like, if I can get Derrick Henry, then yeah, I absolutely would do it. But I don't know if like Isaiah Pacheco doesn't really move the needle much for me. And
I think you do a 2 for 1. You do a 2 for 1. So you're giving up Kittle, and we can give up maybe Xavier Worthy and ask for Kenneth Walker and Jake Ferguson. Would you do that?
Kenneth Walker and Jake Ferguson for Kittle and Worthy. Yeah, I would probably do that.
I don't love Worthy. I know he's young. I know, but
I'm not high on him either.
I'm not huge on his like upside as being like a wide receiver 2 forever sort of a guy. So if you can sell on that optimism right now, it might even look like you're losing on that trade, but I don't think you are in reality for where these 2 rosters are and where we're headed to and trying to go. So maybe you don't have to pay that much. Maybe you can start the conversation with Kittle and Sutton and Demario Douglas and then see if they're interested in that. And then maybe you end up having to do Xavier Worthy or something. But I think this manager might be willing to move Kenneth Walker or Derrick Henry because they might feel like Pacheco and Pollard together is kind of an RB2 for them. Like they're optimistic about them on their team possibly. So I would look to pull from this team, and I just noticed that their tight end is their weakest spot. So
yeah. What are the odds that you're actually making the picks of 108 and 201?
I think the landing spots are likely to give us some good options at 108 for running backs, because if we think Travis Hunter is going to be in the top 7, then that's going to push down potentially a guy like Judkins. If Henderson goes in the second round, let's say the mid-second round, maybe he finds himself in that 7 to 8 range instead of being in the 3-4 range. I think that there's a chance that 108 is going to be valuable if it's not a running back. So we could probably trade it on the clock. I don't want to move that now until I know who's there for me, or I can leverage that pick for the highest possible amount with where this team is. I don't see the need to move off of it early. Maybe I'm missing something though.
No, I mean it depends on the move, the players that are available and things like that. But I'm with you. I am definitely looking while on the clock or close to the draft is the best time to do it. But on top of that, I think it's very, very unlikely that I make that kind of move, or make those picks. I should say. Two questions I want to address. DJ Cold Cuts says, if any Nerd Herd members have not listened to the latest Nerd Herd episode, you need to. Genius idea. Got the trade done while listening to the episode, but with possibly the worst team in the league. So I'm not giving away what it is. I'm not giving away a secret. Nerd Herd members get that exclusive look for a reason. So if you have not listened to it, make sure you do. Hutsy, where is wide receiver episode 4? So we had a couple of our podcast staff at the home opener for the Cleveland Guardians yesterday. We normally record on Tuesdays. That got pushed back one day. So episode 4 will be released tomorrow, and then episode 5 will be released Friday. So everything is pushed back one day compared to what it normally is. So that is why those are not available for you at this time. All right. Anything else about this roster that we want to cover, Taylor?
I'm hopping in here in the original text email. He brings up trading Kyler Murray for Drake May. Would you guys make that trade?
I have no problem with it. It's just not necessary, really, in this league.
I would.
Whatever.
If you're going to get some value, I would say sure, because I don't see a huge change. Do you, Garrett? I mean, unless you're taking points for sacks taken or something, I can't really see where Drake May was rushing, and Kyler Murray is not like out there setting the world on fire. He wasn't last year, and the attempts are going to be up for May. The attempts for Murray have not been there. Like I can just see a world where you're not losing more than maybe 1 to 2 points per week on average between the two of them. So if you can get a serious plus with Drake May for Murray, I would be willing to move off of him. But I'm not paying to move off of Murray to Drake May. I'm not sure which way they're talking about. If they're saying,
if it's just straight up, would you do it?
I don't see a reason to do it if it's straight up. I would stick with Penix and Murray.
Because May definitely has a higher bust chance, right?
He does. He also has a higher ceiling, but fortunately you have the Penix upside. So you have kind of the upside option on your team already. So it just doesn't seem necessary to me.
Yeah. We're not really gaining any stacks if that's like a thing they're worried about. Like, I don't think the DeMario Douglas to Drake May connection is going to be game changing for leagues. Like, I'm just saying that, not even trying to like be sarcastic. I'm just saying, like, I don't see a lot of potential in Pop Douglas's long-term fantasy value. So don't invest any sort of roster construction into like around him or in teaming up players with him and stuff like that.
Yep. Real quick, I know Pete's getting to it, but a couple people asking about submitting a roster review. So because of the limited time today, we are doing nukes only. So if you want to get a roster reviewed today, you can still do it. You've just got a nuke. That's the only way to get yours in today. If you do a regular roster review, roster rescue, whatever, then it will be on Monday's show. So I guess that depends on how important it is for you to get it in today versus being able to wait another 5 days or so.
Yeah, because you
Justin said,
have a little drive.
I do.
get up.
Yeah, I got just under a 3-hour drive to get up to Cleveland today, so I can do the Nerd Herd show. Justin said, you guys also finally convinced me. I bought 2 FFPC teams and I've been doing some work to get them a good base. One has Brian Thomas and Jacobs. The other has Bowers and Andrews in a tight end premium. Justin, best of luck to you, my man, in those FFPC leagues. Sweet.
Big
All right,
fan
let's
of
get to
Brian
our next
Thomas.
one.
Okay. Next one is from Dalton.
Dalton, this is the Dynasty League. This is a start 8. Kamish will not move off Neighbors, Jefferson, or Chase. He's got a lot of stuff tied in here with his team. He's got great notes. This guy's clearly like thought this through, talking about specific trades for each team that he's looking to do, not looking to do, what they're willing to do. So I don't know that we'll get into all of that directly, but we need to know it's 1 quarterback, start 8, and then we'll kind of talk about some of these potential moves as we get into it. But 1 quarterback league, here we go. So Josh Allen, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. Now, I am curious. This says 1 quarterback, but the values on these are looking like super flex, and it says it's starting 2. Are we sure that this is the correct league, Pete? Or the values are correct?
So he specified that it is the Dynasty League.
Okay.
I'm looking over it one more time. I think whoever put the notes in messed up here. It's Superflex.
Well, we won't tell them you're the one that put the notes in, Pete.
Our secret is safe with whoever did that.
Dang it.
All right,
Okay.
Superflex.
That's
Start
good
8.
to know, though, because now
Yeah.
our roster looks better.
Our roster looks much, much better, obviously, because with Josh Allen, the number 1 asset in Dynasty, real close with Jaden Daniels. But then Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. So we've got 4 starting quarterbacks there, including Sam Darnold. 3 guys that are all going to be taken in the top 3 rounds or so of a Dynasty startup. You're looking great there. Don't skip past the running backs yet, though, because I still have to read them. Devon Achane, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Zach Charbonnet, Tajay Spears at running back. Wide receiver, we've got Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Jackson Smith and Jigba, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed, Ricky Pearsall. Tight ends, we've got Brock Bowers, Tucker Kraft, Kyle Pitts. We have the 105, 201, 207, 208, and 301 this season. We do not have our 26 first. However, we do have our 2027 first. So we are the number 1 team here, Breece Lightning, number 1 team in Dynasty. But in contender mode, we are number 2. And it's with the Kamish Bish, which, if I'm reading this correctly, this is the team that does not want to trade one of their young, talented wide receivers. So with this team, there's a few different options that we can go. Looking at some of these different teams, there's some teams that are not very active in this league. Dangerous sold the farm for JJ McCarthy. So there's like a lot of different moving pieces for this and some trades that he already made. But me looking at this team, I would say right now, I want to know how much my league is really paying attention to all of what's going on in the world of fantasy. If I have a league that is paying attention, then I'm not necessarily doing this. But if I have a league that is just kind of up in the air, I am right now seeing how much value does Breece Hall still have? Because right now that situation is a bit scary. Now, things could end up working out great. You could have a scenario where Breece Hall gets traded, but it's to the Commanders, and he's just a monster there, or something like that. Like, so there's a lot of different things that could happen, but Breece Hall has definitely taken a hit in value this offseason, but that's only in really active leagues. leagues that aren't paying close attention, he still has one of the top values at running back in the league. Same thing with Ramondre Stevenson. I think Ramondre Stevenson is in a world where they could have a new starting running back within the next few weeks here. And it wouldn't necessarily shock me if they did. I'm not saying they will. He's got a decent contract. It's definitely a possibility that he's fine. So I'm looking at those two pieces, and I'm going to teams that are, maybe a little worried about their running back spot, seeing if I can offer one of these two guys and see if I can get what I would be perceiving as an upgrade, because Achane and Walker will be able to hold it down for you. But I need to get my hands somehow, some way on an elite running back. Is that Saquon Barkley? Is that, even for a short time, Derrick Henry? Is that Ashton Genty? Is that, I need to get my hand on one more elite running back, because I am not getting an elite wide receiver because the team close to me is not dealing them. Taylor, I'm having a hard time talking. You take over for a sec.
Well, I'm going to have a hard time too. Right now I have the shakes. I've just been sitting here waiting for you to say exactly while you finished there. Let's make a trade for Ashton Genty. This is the team that I think has the need for a top tier running back. It's a start 8. This is like the exact format for a guy like Genty. I think we have enough wide receiver depth. We have guys like Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker. We have quarterbacks. I think what we need to do is put together our best offer or our 2 best offers for Genty, and then see if that gets it done. And if not, then we can drop down. So, Pete, the guy who has the 101 is actually team. Well, you're still in contender mode. If you want to
switch.
I'm usually in. So team 6.
Okay.
So team 6 has Lamar, Dak, and nobody, with Dak coming back from injury. They have James Conner, Jalen Wright, and nobody at running back. So they would want Genty, but they have nobody. So maybe we can package 2 of our running backs, and that will be more appealing. They have nobody after their wide receivers, really. Sorry, Pete, I keep making you jump around, but they have Waddle, Ayuk, who might not be ready for the beginning of the season. Like, this team, if anything, should be punting for next year again already. Like, if I was the manager of this team, I would be looking to just keep moving it back another season. But they might not see it that same way. So I think what we should do is put together a package. And what would you pay to go get Genty in this? Because they could use a backup or a better quarterback than Dak. They need running backs. They need wide receivers. And I believe we also have the 105 and the 201. So there has got to be a way for us to get him off of that manager's hands.
I totally agree. That is a deal I'm absolutely looking to make, because I need somebody to give me elite point totals this season. So can I package Breece Hall, and maybe I even package the 105 and the 201? Now, that's a bit of an overpay. I don't know if I would do that, but could I then throw in Ramondre Stevenson possibly? And hey, give me in return James Conner from your team, because you're not contending this year. If you can get Trey Benson with it, awesome. Just to kind of give yourself that whole room there. But like that is the kind of move where I'm looking to make to get myself somebody with elite point totals this year. We also have potentially some wiggle room at some younger running backs, or wide receivers, I should say, that can make this work. But even quarterback is interesting with this team, because if this is a younger team looking toward the future, Dak Prescott isn't ideal. But we have a Brock Purdy that is very ideal. So how much plus can we get on top of Brock Purdy, or on top of Dak Prescott, to give Brock Purdy? So you could even incorporate something like that into the deal to kind of help balance the sides if you needed to give yourself Dak Prescott, give them Brock Purdy. Chances are you won't even need him. But we've seen Dak Prescott be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy at times. So that'll give you kind of a second option at quarterback behind a Jordan Love.
would you be interested in potentially just in super flex leagues? This is kind of a rare thing to be able to do, but he does have 4 viable starting quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Are you potentially looking at doing like giving up a quarterback for a elite position like a running back, or are you still
I'd be open to it.
okay?
I'd be open to it if somebody's willing to take on a Sam Darnold, because he's the riskiest of the group, but he's still going to go in the top 7-8 rounds of a startup right now. So if you're able to get like, are there some bad teams with like Derrick Henry or somebody like that?
Can we go to Team 7, Pete? So Team 7 has Mahomes, Herbert, and nobody. So I don't know if they would necessarily feel like they need a third quarterback, but they have CMC, and I would be very interested in an 8 team league that I would definitely want to have upside swing like Christian McCaffrey. This team could use a tight end, and we have Tucker Kraft or Kyle Pitts, and we can happily give them one or both. We have Bowers in a start 8. We're never going to use those other guys. So that would be an upgrade for them over K-Dot, and I think. So we could start with Tucker Kraft and a quarterback and see, Sam Darnold, Tucker Kraft, and I'm just going to grab Ricky Pearsall for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe that feels like it's a lot, but I think in a start 8, you're underpaying still. Like, I think Christian McCaffrey and the upside he brings, a guy like Pearsall shouldn't be seeing your lineup unless he just has a breakout year and these other guys that we have ahead of him. Like, again, start 8, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, JSN, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed. Ricky Pearsall better not be starting with us or something's wrong. Like, get him off your team and try to get CMC. That's where I'm at. If you can't get Genty, or even if you can you make another deal like this? Definitely, if in your league, you're up against a guy with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Malik Neighbors, and their backup is A.J. Brown and Chris Godwin, there's no way that you're going to compete at the wide receiver position. So can we round up some running backs and get back even with our competition? That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with all of that. So I think you have some good options here, potentially to go out and make some moves and kind of bolster what is like. I don't think we've acknowledged this enough. Like, this is a championship caliber team. This is a team that can absolutely win the title. So there's nothing that you have to do to stay in that contention window. Like, you're there. We're just trying to look like, what are some little moves that can put you over the top? Because realistically, I want to emphasize this again. Realistically, in a start 8, I don't really need much more than like 10 really good players. Like, I don't need crazy depth. If I'm starting 11, 12, 13 guys, yeah, I'm going to need like as many good players as I can get. But right now, I'm focused on who are superstars. Like, if you have Garrett Wilson as your 4th receiver, do you really need a 5th, 6th, 7th receiver that is going to be getting you points? Not really. Like, it's nice to have a couple extra guys for bye weeks and whatnot, but for the most part, like, you can make that work in an 8-team league with somebody that has a good matchup that week. So there's just not as much that you really need to do, and there's just not as many moving parts in a 10-team league where you're only starting 8. So for me, like, I really am at the point in this kind of league where I really just care about how beautiful can I make my starting lineup. And as long as I can make my starting lineup beautiful, I'm good with whatever else. So even going back to the Brock Purdy and the Jordan Love and all of those kinds of things, like, if I got to move one of those guys to make my starting lineup better, okay, like, let's make it happen, because I think that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is, like, I need my start 8, and then I need an additional running back and an additional receiver. And anything after that depth-wise is gravy. It's all bonus. It's all bonus.
So, question, you kind of brought this up, and my initial reaction was, that's crazy. That's crazy, Garrett.
Okay.
So that probably means it's a good trade.
All right.
But did you say that you'd be willing to do the 105 and Breece Hall for 101?
If it came down to it, I would be willing to do that for Ashton Jen. Like, that would be playing hardball, and I would respect it. And that would be the max that I would pay. But yeah, I would be willing to do that for Breece Hall, or for Ashton Jeanty.
Because especially
eight.
In the start 8, like a Judkins or a Henderson will make your team look a lot better on paper, but the difference between that and Kenneth Walker is
just huge.
Okay.
It's just huge. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, the Breece Hall situation, this is not a anti-Breece Hall talent. This is anti-Breece Hall situation. Now, you could get really lucky in this. And like I said, he could get traded to the Commanders for, their second round pick or something like that. And now all of a sudden you're loving life as a Breece Hall owner. So there's a trade that could be made that changes all of this. But as it sits today, it was already not a great situation. Justin Fields is now the starting quarterback, who we've seen him most seasons average around 17% target rate for the running back position. On his best season, the running backs were being targeted at 26.5% on the Jets that year. So, like, that's just a huge drop off in targets for Breece Hall. So you add that in. You add in that the offensive line has not really improved much. Maybe they get a little bit better through the draft, but it's just not a good, healthy situation for a running back right now. And then if they're going to actually be using other running backs even remotely as much as they're using Breece Hall, even if it just drops down to Breece Hall is used 55% and then 30% for, one and 25% for the other, or whatever it is. My math's off, but whatever. You get the point. Like, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. So
is Achane above or behind or in front of Hall for Dynasty for you?
Above.
Okay, would you do Achane and the 105 if he countered? That's too much?
I think that's too much at that point.
Okay. Sweet.
I just want to add one last note here, since this is a start 8. I know we've mentioned a lot of times what the nuances are, but we don't see as many of these rosters. So one of my favorite moves, which I think would work well for this roster, is to go out and try to get either Devontae Adams, who that's on the team with all the other wide receivers, so he's probably out. But Tyreek Hill is another name. I think if you can go out and tier down from a guy into Tyreek Hill, so you have, T. Higgins was a difference maker this last year, but if you can get a good plus with T. Higgins, or you can move Jaden Reed, or you can add a little to Ricky Pearsall, whatever it is, if you can package Jaden Reed and Ricky Pearsall to get Tyreek Hill and a little extra, whatever that looks like, I think that's a smart move, is to go get Tyreek Hill on your roster in a start 8, because right now his value is very suppressed, but he still has the potential, just like CMC, to be a league winner when he's on. So just a side note.
Real quick, this is a good question from Jason. Kind of wants to talk about Purdy versus Love in their values as far as contender mode and dynasty mode. And, we're seeing about double the value for Jordan Love that we're seeing from Brock Purdy. I would agree. I think this is partly a little bit overblown. There it probably does need to be a little bit tighter. So I do agree with that. But part of the reasoning would be, one, Brock Purdy's situation right now in San Francisco is very messy and very murky. We all expect him to get a new contract. The moment that happens, his value will increase once again. So we're kind of waiting to see exactly what that looks like and the money and the years and all that. But the instant it happens, assuming it's what we would expect, he's going to move up a little bit. But it's tricky when you look at the direction that the 49ers seem to be heading. They're heading into what is likely a rebuild. And you got a guy like Trent Williams that could retire at any time. They've just lost Debo. We don't know when Brandon Ayuk's going to be back. So it's a lot of that kind of stuff that's really lowered. And even though Jordan Love, his numbers this past year weren't as good as Brock Purdy's, part of that was also he was injured for a decent chunk. I shouldn't say a decent chunk, but he missed a few games that really kind of moved him down the leaderboard on things. So we would expect that to improve this year. While I agree the gap is too far, I do think it's still clearly Jordan Love over Brock Purdy. And most of the draft capital I've seen in startups do kind of agree with that. Jordan Love at the end of the second, beginning of the third, where Brock Purdy's more of the end of the third. Any thoughts on that, Taylor?
Yeah, I know you specifically point out that it's in the contender mode, Jason, which, I think the other part of this is from fantasy, this side of things, as the fantasy managers, we see the Green Bay Packers as needing more offensive weapons, and we want more reliability and just consistency across the board. But the truth is, they're really good offense. Like, they know what they're doing. They're able to get the ball down the field. They were efficient with it when everyone was, in the lineup. So Jordan Love has no concerns, really. Their offense has a perception right now, but he's actually just, I think, waiting to erupt in an MVP caliber season. Like, I'm not trying to have a hot take. We've seen him be able to perform at a high level. So if he can put it all together for 1 year, whatever the circumstances are, I think he has a ceiling that's higher than what Brock Purdy could be reaching, especially on a hitting 30 points a game sort of a situation.
Side note, I saw someone wearing a Trey Lance 49ers jersey a couple days ago in public.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa.
That's bold.
Nuts.
Michael Dennis, what's up, guys? Good to have you in here.
Awesome. Really fast. Just one word answers. Which side? Let's answer these questions. Tatum says Mahomes and a 26 first for JSN and 103. And he could turn the 103 into Stroud if he wants.
I'm not the biggest Stroud guy. That could also be Ward at 103. Oh, man, this is tough. What would you do, Taylor?
I'm taking Mahomes, super flex. I know that his scoring hasn't been as high as we want, but I mean, he's about as safe of an asset as you can really find. So, although I like JSN, that 103 could be a miss. It could statistically be a miss.
Could.
And we still have the 26.
Yeah, we get the 26 first. I don't love the class. I'll take the Mahomes side.
Okay. 108 Superflex. So the Superflex League. Superflex Best Ball. 108 or Michael Penix?
I'll take the 108. I think that's typically the range where you start considering Shedeur Sanders, some of these receivers not named Hunter McMillan. I will take the quarterback in a super flex team.
Okay.
What about you, Taylor?
And for best ball, I'm going to go with Penix. I think there's some chance that he could explode.
All right.
And side note, Michael, we have the FFPC on the GM, so I think we would be able to import FFPC teams onto.
Yeah, we should be able to do a roster
rescues
for that.
So perfect. On to Ryan's roster rescue.
Ryan. All right, Ryan. This is a 10-team standard league. Standard, so no PPR aspect, which does shift things a little bit in terms of total value of these running backs and receivers. 10-team standard league I took over 2 years ago, been rebuilding. Feel like he's close to competing, but obviously I need some running back help. I have wide receiver capital, trying to figure out what to do with and not depleting. The team with Jalen Hurts as a 10-team PPR league last year had the most points, but finished 6th place in the regular season and lost the first round of the playoffs. So let's take a look at this team here. This team is currently in 4th in dynasty mode, but contender-wise, we are in 7th. All right, so both kind of middling, but opposite sides of the middle. We've got Jordan Love at quarterback, Drake May backing him up, Travis Etienne, Trey Benson, Tank Bigsby, Tyler Algier at running back, wide receivers, Nico Collins, Ladd McConkey, Rashee Rice, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk. Tight end, Sam Laporta, Jonnu Smith. Picks wise, we have the 104, 202, 210, and 304. We have both our first and seconds in 2026. So here's the hard part. And I've got to mentally do this because it's been a long time since I've played in a standard league. But a guy like Ladd McConkey is going to be one of the most overvalued assets in a standard scoring league because his value does not come traditionally from huge plays. It does not come traditionally from touchdowns. It comes from catching passes. And so I'd be curious to see how your league values a guy like a Ladd McConkey, because if they're, enough of these guys play in traditional PPR leagues or whatever, there could be some good love for a young asset like that. And I think he's going to fetch more than he might actually be worth in this type of league. On top of that, we do have an interesting tight end situation here with Sam Laporta, Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith is a guy that I like quite a bit. But once again, it is partly because of the PPR aspect, not as much about the big plays and yardage, whereas Sam Laporta is a big play and yardage guys. So I think those are two assets that I like right away. I'm heavily considering, can I move these assets to get players I like? 104 is a really tricky spot. 104 is in a standard scoring league going to put you right outside of Genty, Hampton, Henderson. So now you're not going to get any one of those 3 running backs, and you're now in line once again to be taking a wide receiver. So I am strongly trying to move up at least one spot. If I cannot move up one spot, I am moving back a couple spots because I do not want to be stuck with not getting one of those top 3 guys in the draft. So I'm seeing what kind of assets can I move up and down. Pete did ask me, would Hampton be RB2 for you in a standard league? Easily. He would easily be an RB2, be the RB2 over Henderson. They are like neck and neck for me. So the switch in platform would easily make Hampton over Henderson for me. So those are kind of my first initial shotgun of thoughts. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
Well, just quickly in response to the 104, I think in a standard league, I'm excited to take Judkins at 104, assuming he gets, top 100 draft capital. If he goes to a place where he looks like he's going to be the guy in a standard league, I might be willing to take him at 104. If I
top
can't
100 is good enough for you? Because if he's didn't take it,
if he lands a top 100 and he's the clear number 1 guy. So let's say that the Raiders don't take someone in the first 2 picks, but they get Judkins, and then they don't take anyone else until like the 7th round. Like, I'd still be happy to take him 104 there. I'm not saying I'm excited versus if he goes in top 50.
I was going to say first 2 rounds, he would need to go for me to really feel good about taking him at 104.
In standard, I just don't think there's much value in getting those other picks. But I don't want to get too hung up because I do see potential for a trade. If we want to jump to the 8th spot manager. So they've got James Conner and Kyron Williams, both guys who score a lot of rushing touchdowns by comparison. And that's really what we want in a standard league, is give me as many touchdowns as I can possibly garner. And I think this manager, they're light at wide receiver. Can we downgrade from Ladd McConkey and get Terry McLaurin and Kyron Williams? Are you making that deal? I think I am.
You think you could get both Terry McLaurin and Ladd McConkey and Kyron for just Ladd?
I mean, if people are valuing Ladd as a high-end wide receiver one probability asset, even though it's standard, yes. If people are still valuing him as like a wide receiver one kind of guy. But, I mean, you could throw in Jonnu Smith.
True.
You could throw in
What if he plays hardball and says,
I mean,
I'll only give you Kyron straight up for Ladd? Would you do it?
No, I'd say, well, would you do James Conner and Terry McLaurin for Ladd? Because if that's the market that Ladd has in my league, like if his market is Kyron 1-to-1, then I think I'd rather tier, because Kyron and James Conner in a standard league, as far as like their points per game basis, is kind of like similar to me. It's not like their production is that different.
I don't know
So,
if that would be quite enough for me.
Can I just really fast?
Yeah.
This is a pretty long-standing standard league,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that most of these guys will know enough to view Ladd differently than if this league just started up.
Mm-hmm.
So
does everyone view Ladd differently? though?
in standard, it
Like,
should
I'm just-
be he should be viewed as less valuable. I think if
Is he? That's what I'm not sure.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he actually is, because he did have a lot of big games with yardage. They came with several catches, but that's just how he got there. And he did have some long touchdowns throughout the year. If people are optimistic, it only takes one person to think that he's the same as Nico Collins. Like, I mean, really, like, it's just one manager. And I don't know if this manager is necessarily the one, but I think a move where I can tear down from McConkey into a guy like McLaurin who still has touchdown upside. Can I get Devontae Smith? Or the one thing that's nice about this, Garrett, this is a 10-team league and they're shallow benches. I mean, these teams are not as deep as what we've seen with a lot of other rosters. So I think it's nice that, just to point out that the structure of this league does keep people from having a bunch of roster cloggers. Like, it looks like everyone on our team is there for a reason, but keeping in mind that it's standard and that there's probably a lot of guys on the waiver, I don't think we need to care that much about Juwan Jennings. I don't think Jalen McMillan really needs to be on our roster. I think we need to pick up some running backs and instead of those
just some
guys.
just
for
some
sure.
upside players absolutely. Yeah, I think Ladd McConkey's the obvious target for a trade. What pick do we have again? Is 104, and then what else?
202.
202.
So that's the same as the
112.
112.
Could still get a pretty nice asset there. My dream would be Cam in that spot. I don't know that it will happen. He's probably gone by then, but I'm still taking a look at Dylan Sampson. I'm still taking a look at, I'm much more interested in Damian Martinez in this league. I'm much more interested in Kyle Monungai in this league. I'm much like those types of players. I have a lot more. Cam Scatterboon, not Ward, right? I don't know, Pete. Did I say Ward?
No, you
So
said
you
Cam,
said
which is
you said
confusing for
Cam,
people.
So I was just making sure you were meaning Scatterboon, not
Oh
Ward.
yeah, Scatterboon, definitely not a quarterback. Yeah,
Okay.
and standard leagues, yeah. I would hope people would know that in standard leagues, I'm talking about running backs and not quarterbacks as valuable. But yes,
In
it's a good
one
clarification.
quarterback leagues, and if Cam Ward goes 101, where do you think he'll go? Where should he go?
Mid to late second in a 10 team.
Okay.
I mean, 10
in a 10
yeah, there's
team.
just no urgency to get him at all. Like, and the only time you
Yeah.
ever even really consider even second round is like, I don't even know that I would. I probably at that point, like I was talking about the Kyle Manung guys of the world, I'm much more interested in than another quarterback on my roster at that point, because even in this league, like Drake May has such little value in a 10-team 1 QB league. Like there's just it's just tough. It's just tough at the QB position. So yeah, even there, like even as I'm talking about it, it might not even be till third round, honestly, that I would take Cam Ward.
Okay.
To Keith's point that you just popped up there, Pete, our good pal, writer, mocker, Keith Ensminger, gave us the McConkey stat here. So he was wide receiver 11 total or wide receiver 21 on average in standard scoring. So that's with some spike games. So I'm just saying, like, there's people could talk themselves into Lad McConkey is a wide receiver 1 waiting to happen. Like, I don't necessarily, I don't want to get ourselves caught up in that everyone sees him as a reception merchant. You know what I mean? Some people might view him as a true game changer. So there, don't short sight yourself when selling McConkey, but definitely look to move him, I would say.
Yeah. Last thing I would say is I also I'm not super worried about the depth here at wide receiver because we have good depth. So if that's the case, like if there's somebody on my roster, any of those guys, Collins, Rice, Waddle, Ayuk, if there's somebody that someone is very interested in, I'm really trying to make a move. And I will take what would be perceived as like a very lateral move. I do not need to make win the trade because I don't need all of these receivers. I've got to get running backs. The standard scoring leagues, running backs are just so crazy valuable for all the rushing yards they get, the touchdown upside. Like I need to get myself some running backs. So if there is a lateral move to be made at receiver to a running back, I'm probably willing to make it.
What do you think about Team 6 having down at their draft picks here 102, 103, 107? They're clearly collecting 2026 first, and they did some sort of a deal with the Midwest Misfits that they got
All their picks.
There's 27 second as well, or 27 first as well. So what about going after that 102, 103? This manager clearly likes 26 first. Are you willing to send away this team's 26 first in this roster that we're working on? Would you send away Ryan's 26 first potentially to try and get one of those, given it's 10 team? You know, we don't have running backs at the moment, really. Are we at risk of sending away a top 2 or 3 pick if things don't go our way?
What on
this
top
year?
of the 26 first are we given? Because they're not going to just do a 26 first for 102.
No, but I mean, if we're shopping McConkey, 26 first and McConkey for the 102, 103, does that get me somewhere? I'm fine paying that. I mean, I'm okay paying that.
Say that again. So 26 first
Is
and McConkey for 102.
McConkey. Yeah. And then if they say no, they say maybe 103, then I'd say, okay, I'll do that, because this is standard. This is standard. If you can't get 2 of those elite 4 or 5 running backs in this class, I don't know if you're competing as much as you want to be. Unless you can go out and get, you know, as we talk about these other guys, can you get Derrick Henry? Can you get CMC? Can you get these high upside guys?
I might be willing to do that for 102 to get Hampton. Hampton is so much more interesting to me in this format than Henderson. Like Henderson really drops a tier. So I might be able to do that for 102. I don't think I'm willing to do that for 103.
Do you foresee us using our So we have a 210, a 304, a 308, and a 404. We have all these picks. Can we just move all of those with the 202 and jump
I would
up?
love to.
I think we need to. I mean, just looking at our roster, we have depth. It's a short bench. Like, we're never gonna have a third, fourth round guy make our full roster. So I think after the 104, I would just trade away your entire draft, the 202 and everything, and see if you can get back into the first round. It's a 10 team. So if you can move the 202 and everything else and get the 108 or the 109, I'm happy to do that. I don't even know if you have to wait till draft day. You probably don't want to try and wait till draft day because then it'll be more expensive. There'll be other bidders, but you got to condense in this format, and I'm worried that those are just wasted assets completely.
No, I think that's fair. So yeah, I would totally be willing to give a bunch of picks, all the picks, to move up, even if it's just a few spots for a player or a tier of a player or two I really like, to give myself the best shot to get them.
Yeah, like the team with the 101 is team 2 overall. You go down to their picks. They have the 101, the 110, and not much else. So maybe they're willing to split that 110 into the 202 and a bunch of other picks. And then that's something that's appealing to them. But then you get to move up to 110. And I think that it's worth it to give up all those other random picks to move up 2 spots. So that's a target, and you might get it done pretty easily, actually.
Totally agree.
So.
Totally agree. All right. Best of luck moving forward, my guy, Ryan. Hopefully you're able to get some of these deals completed. Now, Pete, I think that's our final roster rescue, unless there's a nuke that comes in. I know you really, really wanted to do a Superflex tight end premium rookie mock draft today. I said, let's wait. Let's see how timing and schedule and everything works. It looks like we have enough time. So why don't we do this? If we'll do the Superflex tight end premium mock draft. If anybody wants to nuke during that time, we'll pause in the middle of the draft, get theirs in. If we don't get any other of those before the end of the mock draft, we'll wrap it up. Sound good?
Yep. Sounds great.
Right.
And this is how we're going to do
2 rounds.
My pick.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
Are you one with the crowd again?
We're going with the crowd, but we were waiting too long because of the delay. So what I'm going to do is, okay, crowd, I'm talking to you. Okay? Crowd, is that
audience,
nerd herd, viewers, nerd turds. But just say who you want to draft, and if he's on the board, the first name I read, I'm going to draft him. Okay? If it's within the range. Okay?
I was going to say, you're about to get some terrible names in there.
Side note,
Corey Brooks at 1-9.
Thoughts on Tesla or whatever his name is? I've never seen.
Yeah, he's an interesting big play wide receiver. He is not on our initial watch list. We might be adding him to the players we missed show. I know we've got some really, really interesting guys that I know for sure we're adding. He's on the fringe right now, so he may get added.
Okay, cool. Let's start this up. Where do you guys want to pick?
I'm good with whatever.
I'll put you at 3.
Why don't you
I'll take one because my guys are slow. So, chat, start saying who you want at 104. Okay, we're stirring this up. No.
So you're just taking Genty. You're not gonna wait for the crowd on that. What if they really, really want?
Because I still have 51%.
It's super flex.
I've 51%. So if I disagree, then whatever. Tough luck. We're doing 2 rounds.
Not one with the viewers.
2-point tight end premium.
2 points. Okay.
Big premium.
15 points per first down. No, just kidding.
Love the tush push in
right.
that scenario.
We're stirring it up. Genty, 101. Okay.
All right. 102.
Are you putting the draft board
No.
up for us?
That's a good point.
It's like only
There
I
we
need
go.
to see it.
Yep.
All right. Well, we don't know draft capital yet, so we're kind of just going off of everything else. So I'm gonna go with Henderson. That way, Garrett has to think on it.
Also, you
Um,
guys don't look. Garrett and Taylor, don't look at the chat. No sniping allowed, even though you just sniped him.
All right.
You
No
sniped
sniping
Michael.
allowed. Fair enough. I do want to add though that if draft capital was the same, I actually just like Henderson more than I like Hampton. But I'm willing to make that switch if the NFL tells us
Yeah.
differently. But
It's so close for me. Like if I had 100 teams, I'm drafting like 51, 52 Henderson and the rest Hampton. Like it really is super close for me. So I do see the NFL draft swaying me to put one over the other depending on how it goes. The tight end premium, that's a big premium. That makes Warren interesting, but I'm probably still gonna go Hampton. But that's
Okay.
really close.
And we are going Warren. I see Justin.
That's a good call. I had a hard time deciding between those two with that kind of premium.
so this is not what I would do if I only had one pick. If I only had one pick, then I would, have to pick my spot a little differently. But we get several picks in this mock draft, and I'm going to play it that way. So given where the tiers are and everything, I'm going to take Colston
Dang.
Loveland.
It's not a
as the
bad
next-
call. I think Loveland and Warren are a lot closer together than a lot of people do.
And when it comes to receptions, I think they could. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Loveland had more receptions
entirely possible.
than Warren. And with 2 points, that's just
It's entirely
huge, so.
possible. I like Loveland a lot. I don't think he's gotten the due in the fantasy community that he should. So I actually like that pick quite a bit.
Do you love Lind? Him?
Did you put us down for that? Did you pick him for me?
I
Pete?
did. I have one window showing the board, and the other one, I guess
Oh.
I need to refresh it. Okay. Side note: before Garrett chat, put who you want at 106 or
107.
107. My bad.
107.
I feel like I should go with that was great. Great. I almost said
Grapeland?
television. But this is not television. Live streaming right there by me. I feel like I should go Ward here. I feel like that's the right move. But Travis Hunter he's convinced me too much. So I'm going to take Travis Hunter here.
I think Rich convinced you too much.
Maybe he did. Or maybe the tape did.
Ooh, or both.
Or both.
Okay. I am seeing Michael saying Hampton 101. I'm taking Cam Ward here. He's going to be the first overall pick. Not very
Good
much
pick.
explanation needed.
It's a good pick. I would be between two guys here with what we know right now. But I'm going to stick with where I've been all season so far and go with Quinshon Judkins.
Okay.
I like Tet more than Judkins in a lot of scoring, but I think without knowing draft capital and just the profile that Judkins has for what he could amount to for fantasy production, I just like that more than what Tet's by comparison to all the other receivers out there. So give me the guy that's a little rarer at the position.
That leaves Tet for me. So I will actually.
Ted's going to be a faller, man.
I actually just kidding. When I did my nerd score, I actually have a slightly higher score on Ibuka. I'll be talking about that in the show tonight. So I'm actually going to go Mecca Ibuka.
Oh, let's go.
I feel like it should be. I feel like it should be Tet, but Emeka Buka just has such a high freaking ceiling. Like, I just don't see him being a bust. And I think that's enough to convince me to stay there.
Honestly, my biggest red flag with Emeka Buka is that he has been my wide receiver 1 for forever. And okay, so we're gonna. I was so high on Kennedy Brooks. I was too high.
Oh my gosh, you were! I forgot about that.
Oh man, he was my guy. So
I remember you talking to me and Jared like, why aren't more people talking about Kennedy Brooks? We're like, it's because he sucks.
I remember I was just driving down the street and the Kennedy Brooks rookie profile popped on. And you guys were all like, oh, man. And I was just kind of driving and crying at the same time. Okay, so we're going Emeka?
Emeka, yes.
Emeka. Okay. Who? Luther Burden.
I think you have to go Tet.
Let's
You
see.
do. Sorry.
I'm going to do something crazy because Michael.
Well, Michael said T-Mac at
Oh,
105.
dang.
Remember
Okay.
that?
So there we go. Makes sense.
All right.
Perfect.
Josh saying
That's
T-Mac
crazy.
is Corey Davis. Said by the end of the year, I think Jalen Noel will be the best wide receiver in the class. I'm about to gush on Noel on tonight's show. So
It is the draft of the Jalens.
So this is super flex. I'm gonna take Shedeur Sanders as the next pick. I'm not high on Burden. I'll have to see if Golden gets the draft capital. I can't take any of the remaining running backs over the security of what's likely to be a first-round quarterback. So give me Shedeur.
Perfect.
all right, let me see the board, Pete. Let me see the board.
Okay.
What pick are we on?
We are on. I'm refreshing the board. We are on 111 or 112. Sorry,
Well,
I'm
112.
dyslexic.
Man, I am not that high on Matthew Golden after watching his tape.
You are going to go Cam Scattaboo.
I'm actually not. I thought about it,
Oh.
but I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I'm going to go Jackson Dart.
Yeah, so
I think I'm going to go Jackson Dart.
The Dart Man.
Dennis says Burden wide receiver 1. Class is all wide receiver 2s, but Burden, Hunter, Tet, and Emeka have a chance to be low-end wide receiver 1s, but stay wide receiver 2s.
Okay, in honor of that, we're drafting Luther.
All right.
Even though
I mean,
I
you
would
get him.
not.
fair enough.
He's probably going in the first round, if not early second. It's a great, like, just on that alone, you getting him in the second round is a great pick. So even though I am not as high on him, like, I can't knock that pick.
No.
It's really starting to get to the point where I look crazy for my Mason Taylor love.
I
Like,
don't think
it's
it's
not
crazy in a 2 tight end.
intentional.
I probably would have taken him if you didn't.
It's just, his profile as well. If you didn't have Loveland and Warren, he would look like just this great potential tight end. He didn't have the production that we would maybe want, but that's how it goes in college with tight ends. And he's got the bloodlines. He's got just the work ethic and likely to come into the NFL and get opportunities right away. People are talking about, second round draft capital for him. Tight end 3 off the board. So yeah, Mason Taylor over all these other names, but it's because of the scoring. It's not, I hope people aren't just seeing the names and thinking it's crazy, but
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. I am literally about to pee my pants. So answer this trade question, and I'll be right back.
Oh, my gosh. Look at that timing. Couldn't hold it for 5 more minutes. All right. Thoughts on Romo Dunze for Kenneth Walker and the 114. Start 9 as a contender. Only have Bijan and the 101. Wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Ladd, Jay Jettis, Puka, and Rome. So studs at the wide receiver position. They have Bijan and soon-to-be Ashton Genty, but need a third guy. That's a crazy wide receiver room for a 14-team league. That is a crazy room. Wow. Only starting 9. I think if that's the case, while traditionally I would have Rome probably slightly ahead of Kenneth Walker in my dynasty rankings, we're not always looking to win the trade. And I think especially in a 14-team league, it's tough to get running backs. There's just so few to go around. So I think I would take Kenneth Walker. And wait, you get the 114 as well?
You get the 114.
Oh, I almost totally forgot about that. I would have been close to doing it straight up. You get the 114, that's easy. Done and done.
Yeah, I think you take it because there's also the 114. So you're still staying young, even though you're taking on a running back with quite a bit of fragility to his dynasty value. Like he's one season-ending injury from being less than a second. Like seriously, if he gets hurt in the preseason, I mean a 26-second maybe gets him done early in the offseason. But yeah, like he doesn't have much of a security blanket.
Okay.
All right, where are we at, Pete?
I'm back.
What
We're
pick are we on? Whose
we're at
pick is
202.
it?
He's about to take Trey Harris.
Wait. Yeah, it's Garrett's
it's my
pick,
pick,
yeah.
right? I'm gonna go with Cam Scattaboo. He's the boo. Gotta take him.
Okay, who we got?
Looks like Higgins actually, or
Higgins.
Golden.
Golden. Okay.
Michael said Burden, then Golden.
Okay, we're getting Golden.
All right.
Perfect.
I didn't love his tape. It was fine. It wasn't bad. I just didn't. He's more one-dimensional than I thought.
I think I would pick Samson, Royals, and Noel over Golden personally, but draft capital could change that.
Yeah, Golden really jumped up there because of the combine, I feel like. And a lot of times that's a huge red flag to me. I mean, if guys are expected to do well and do well, great. If we're looking for guys to do well and they do well, that's great. But if a guy just comes out of nowhere sort of and makes people reevaluate the tape because of how they performed at the combine, a lot of times that rosy glass can really inflate a player's overall view. So unless he goes in the first round of the NFL draft, I mean, he's not really on my radar per se, like as an actual prospect. I just am aware that there's value to be had at that moment.
Yeah.
All right. Who's up?
Oh, I think I'm up, and I've been putting off choosing between these two running backs for a while now. But I'm going to take Caleb Johnson over Dylan Sampson in this
Good
situation.
value this late in the draft.
Yeah, I'm not targeting Johnson at all, but if he's going to be there at this point, I might as well take a chance.
Really fast, where do you think Caleb Johnson is going to be drafted in the NFL draft?
Mid-third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Garrett.
I am going to once I get to this point, I don't really care that much about floor anymore. Care about ceiling, and there's few players with a higher ceiling than Jalen Milroe in a super flex league. So give me Milroe.
Tiny hands.
I should have. I mean, dang it.
Okay, we're going with LeQuint.
It's a good pick.
All right. Well, then give me Samson. I'm happy to take him. I'm just going to keep hitting the running backs.
How many picks do we have left, Pete? Where are we at?
We have, refreshing. This is your second to last pick.
All right, my second to last pick. I have a feeling he's about to go, so give me Jalen Noel. I really did like his tape. I'm going to talk about him quite a bit. He was the second biggest surprise in the group that we watched for this week.
Ooh, that's a teaser.
It's a little teaser.
The second biggest.
Second biggest.
Are there 2 wide receivers that you like, and that's it?
No. This actually, it was funny because last week's group was awful. Like,
Yeah.
just so bad. This week, there's probably like 8 receivers that I'm genuinely interested in. So there should be some decent value, like late second, early third at the receiver position of your super flex leagues.
Oh, that's awesome. It's me, and it's us. Sorry, chat. We're going Trey Harris.
Justin said it'd be really funny to nuke on the last pick. That actually low-key would be kind of funny.
Well, if you're going to take Trey Harris, that opens the door for me. I wasn't going to take him over Trey Harris because that would be a little bit crazy. But I think Xavier Restrepo deserves a little bit of love. So I'm going to take him. Hope he becomes the guy out of the slot for someone, and he can rack up some points for me. He's a wide receiver 3, maybe near the end of the season. So Restrepo.
Okay, here we go.
Come on down.
Do you see my mouse cursor or whatever you call it?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is how fast he is.
Such a hater.
He's not fast.
Guess what? He was the biggest surprise of all the receivers I watched.
Hey, I love him. I'm still a believer.
Team Restrepo.
I love to hear it. I did not know that.
I didn't either
at
until
all,
I watched
but
the tape.
Love to hear it.
I watched the tape. Thoroughly
Love it.
impressed. Thoroughly impressed with Xavier Restrepo.
He's awesome.
So, all right.
Pete, get
What?
out of here.
Last pick in the draft.
Bandwagon.
I'm going to go a little off board here because...
You have to draft someone on the board, Garrett.
Oh, dang it. I was going to draft Mickey Mouse. I will take Elijah Aurora with that 2-point tight end premium. Very good receiving upside at the tight end position.
Ooh. Okay, chat. Who we got? Let's see.
You're done. That was the last pick.
Oh, well,
Yep.
never
You
mind,
don't get
chat.
any more.
Well,
You got Trey Harris on your last pick. You should be
I'm
stoked.
so stoked. I wish it was Restrepo or Stripper or whatever.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Sorry we had to cut things maybe the tiniest little bit short, but I got to get up so I can do the Dynasty Nerds podcast this week. Appreciate you guys. Taylor, anything before we get out of here?
We had a new mock draft come out this last Monday, so definitely check that out. It's a super flex. Actually, no, this was a 1 quarterback league. So a lot of you guys with your 1 quarterback rosters today, that would be a good one to check out. And we also have the rookie draft app coming out next week, I believe. So if you want access to the rookie draft app, which I haven't seen anything else like it. I know we've been spending a lot of time building it. It's something we're looking forward to using ourselves. So we made sure that it has all the functions that you need, from a trade pick calculator to the analysis to, just overall integration with your leagues and stuff. So if you are not signed up as a Nerd Herd member, you definitely want to before the release, because you will, spoiler, you'll get it for free. So sign up to be a Nerd Herd member now. If you are already a member, you will receive a code for a free access to our draft app. So stay tuned for that.
Pete, anything for you?
Nope. Just happy to be here.
Here so I don't get fined. I appreciate you guys. We will see you guys again next Monday for our next roster rescue.